Hello, good morning everyone. Hope all are doing well. So I am Dr. Neerija. Today I will be talking to you all about the subject called as Principles and Practices of Management. Why is this subject very important for you all? You are all going to lead the global scenario of business in the near future. So you have to understand some basic concepts of how you are going to manage your business. So for everything we have a yardstick, isn't it? So for management also we have a yardstick, which are the principles which you should understand before taking over as a global manager. Expecting you are going to be or you're going to lead the whole global business scenario, I'm just here to just give you a briefing about what are the important points or concepts which you should understand. Till now you would have covered all this throughout your life, but then when it is coming through an official way, you will understand the thing in a better way. That is, the perception what you had earlier will be a little bit different after coming across these concepts. So as per your syllabus, we have divided your content into 9 units, and I am just going to deal with the first topic now. So to start with, for everything, as I already told you, you need a yardstick. A yardstick is the definition where you will understand why we are doing, what is making us do this, how much we have to do, or when, where, who should do this activities. So the basic information of management or the definition of management starts with a different version. As a human being, I will have one perception about management, someone else will have some other perception about the management. But you, what is your way of thinking? What is your way of interpreting the information depends how you are going to lead the business. So just to discuss with, the first information about your definition. According to Harold Kurtz, he is called as the father of management. What did he say? Management is the art of getting things done through and with people. So two important things are there. One is you're getting things done through people and with people. That is, you're involving other people into your business, asking them to do your work. So whatever is there in your mind, you want that to be done in a systematic way. As a single human being, maybe you will not be able to complete all the tasks. So you need it to be done in a systematic way. Now according to Henry Fayol, what does he say? To manage is to forecast, to plan, to organize, to command, to coordinate and to control. He is bringing all the activities, all the functions of management together under one umbrella. And he is saying, if you see, you are trying to forecast. That is, you have a business plan. You are trying to forecast it. Then you are trying to plan for that. I know what I want. So how I have to achieve the destination? So I need to plan. When I decided this is what I am going to do, I need to organize it. I need to organize it. Organizing means assemble all the necessary infrastructure to lead there. And to command. I know what I want to do. I have arranged everything. I have to assign the task clearly, how it should be done, who will be doing, when they have to do, to what extent they have to done, after completing to whom they have to report, etc. And then to coordinate, you have to have an interlinking between each and every activity. And then to control. Once delegating work is not important. After delegating, you should understand how you have to take over that. That is to see whether this yardstick is completed or no. Then, so now we have to understand the definition, that is the yardstick of principles of management. So what is this yardstick? Yardstick is the definition. As per our subject, here it is the definition. And there are many people or many school of thoughts who have given different version, different perception, different thoughts, and this is being defined by each and everyone as a different way. So when we talk about Harold Kurtz, what does he say? Management is the art of getting things done through people and with people. That is, you should get it done through them and by them. So you have to involve, and that is, you have to assign the job or the task to them and get it done for you, because you have the idea and he is only working for you. So it is through and with people. But as per Henry Fayol, he have a different version. He is trying to combine all the activities, all the functions of a task completion under one umbrella. And what he is saying you have to forecast, you have to plan, you have to organize, you have to coordinate, and then you have to control. Why is he saying this? Because he is saying what is there in your mind should be clearly communicated to the team who is going to work for you. So you have a forecast. For that you are supposed to plan. That is, you have to lay a roadmap. After that, laying the roadmap, you are next supposed to organize. That is, for that. See, for example, I have to reach from this destination to some other destination. I have an idea. This is my forecast. I have a plan. I am going to travel by bus. Okay, for this what I am supposed to organize? All the necessary activities. I have to buy a bus ticket. I have to say from my residence I have to reach to the bus stop. Then get my bus. Is it? These are some things which you should be organized. Once you organize, you have to coordinate. That is, you have to delegate the work. When you are traveling, you have to delegate your own things. That is, you have to carry your own lunch, your ticket, your water, whatever it is, all the so you are supposed to coordinate with all those things, compile, pack it and carry with you and control. So that bag, whatever you are saying, should be under your control, isn't it? That is what we are saying. When we are talking about the official way, it is how you are getting the task achieved by taking the help of your team or your group members. Then coming to Peter Drucker, what is he saying? Management is a multi-purpose organ as already defined by Henry Fayol. He is also saying it is multi-purpose organ that manages business and managers who do together the work. And according to Mary Parker, what is she saying? Management is the art of getting things through the people. The same thing, if you see what Henry Coates had told, Harold Coates had told, the same thing even Mary Madam is also saying. According to T. Himsman, he is saying the same thing, but he is giving it as a different way. He is saying this is divided into 3 different categories. All these 3 different categories are coming together to complete the task of management. So what is he defining? He is saying management is a noun, management is a process, management is a discipline. Why? He is saying it's a noun. What do we usually say? Name, place, animal, all this we call it as noun. So management is an activity. So we are calling it as a noun. It's a process. It's not done only by one person. It is a combined version. It is the task associated with everyone. That's the reason it is called as a process. And it's a discipline. Discipline means a separate arena, a separate subject. So we are defining this. Not only that, if you see, you are involving the 6 M's when you are completing your management. What are the 6 M's? Man and machine, or you can call it as man. Money, this is also required for a business. Machine, without a machine you cannot complete your task. Material, unless or until you have a raw material, you cannot do any business. So material is also required. Methods, that is a procedure. What methodology you are going to use, what is the machinery, what is the method, all together only will be achieved. And after completing the whole task, that is, you have produced a product without having a market to buy the product, to whom you will sell. So you need to have market also. All the 6 M's are must for a management, and that is how we are saying that all the 6 involved or together deals with the management. And for what we are doing this business, the main idea behind doing business or to understand this management is to see how you are improving your sales, how you can improve the profit, and how you can expand the business. That is, a manager's main function is divided into 2 categories. One is wealth maximization, 2 is profit maximization. Wealth maximization is done for the person who is investing in the business. That is for the owners or the people who have purchased your shares. Coming to the profit maximization, it is for the people who have invested in your business. They have trusted you, they have invested You need to maximize their profit. Then only they will have that goodwill in your company. Business expansion. Ultimately, by achieving these two, you are helping the company or the business to grow. Then nature. Nature is something where you have to understand why we are doing or what is really involved in this. So it's a group and not an individual activity. As already discussed, as already given as definition, it is by the people, through the people, the work should be done. So it's a group activity, not a single person's job. One person cannot achieve all the tasks. He should delegate his work to people and get the things done through them so that ultimately his task is achieved. Management follows established principles as I already defined. Management have some systematic rules, regulations, policies. Until and unless you complete this and practice all this, you will not have a successful business. And that is the reason we are saying management follows some established principles. Scope. Scope means the arena, why, where, how we can use these concepts of management. It's a continuous and never-ending process because once you start a business, you're not going to do the business only for 1 month or 1 week. You're going to do this business for a long term, and this long term may be even decades, isn't it? So it's a long process, a continuous process. Then they get the work done through the workers. Who is doing this work? The workers. That is, usually we divide the management into 3 different slabs. One is called as the executive level, that is the top management, middle management and bottom line management. This management who is sitting in the top, that is the executives, the managing directors, they decide what they want the business to be establishing in. So what they do, they assign or they delegate the task to the middle level managers called as the managers. He may be a finance manager or a marketing manager or a sales manager or a HR manager or a production management. Their thoughts are deviated towards the middle level managers, and it is the job of the middle level manager to get the things done to the bottom level people, that is the workers. They are the people who are really working on your dreams and getting the things done for you and achieving the task. That is the vision and mission of the chairperson or the founder will be ultimately put into practice only by the bottom level people. So middle level management is acting as a cushion between the top level and the bottom level management. Management is result oriented. As already discussed, idea is generated here, it is developed or it has been transferred to the middle level management, then it is transferred to the bottom level. And here in this middle level only you should be able to delegate the work properly to the bottom level managers. So example of results like increase in market share, increase in profits or any other further discussion. Then situation in niche, that is management makes plans, policies and decisions according to the situation. I have decided I have to build a 100 crore business. Very good. It's a long-term achievement. Do you think overnight I can do that? It will take a long process for me. To achieve that 100 crores project, I have to build my own step-by-step process. That is, a ladder should be laid. And this ladder can be laid or can be climbed over by taking the help of the workers, the employees, the people who are working on the production floor. So you should understand everything clearly and make them understand. That is, it's called as consensus of mind. That is what I am thinking. I should be able to deliver the same thing to my employee and see that he understood the concept in the same way what I want. Then only you can achieve it. So we can say it is a situation in nature. It uses different plans, policies, decisions. Ultimately, whatever it may be, whatever methodology you are adopting, whatever the technique you are adopting, whatever way you are delegating the work, final thing is you should see the task is achieved. As a middle level manager, you should be answerable to your superiors and you should be answerable to your subordinates also, because your superiors trusted you and delegated the job to you, and your subordinates trusted you and they have accepted to do the work and completed the task. So the manager are highly qualified professionals who are hired from outside. The owners are the shareholders of the company. Both an art and science of management is result oriented. Both. But the art of getting things done through people is an art. It's a science because you should understand the psychology, you should understand the caliber, you should understand the capabilities, the efficiency of each and every worker, and then delegate the work. Then only your work will come out in a perfect way. Therefore, it is an art, it's a management and conducts continuous research. So every day there is an argument whether to discuss or to deal. Management is an art or as a science. It is both together. It's an art because it's a talent to get the work done. It's a science because you're talking or you're dealing with the employees' work efficiency. So these are various different information which you can understand how this management process is getting done. Now we will try to understand the importance of management. Why we are learning this, what is making us learn this, by learning this what is that we are going to gain. It facilitates the achievement of goals through limited resources. With the available resources, what are these resources? Again, already we have discussed the 6 M's are the resources for any business. So with the available resources in the management, in the organization, you are going to get it done. It ensures a smooth sailing in case of difficulties. Because everything is properly organized, properly streamlined, you can get the work done. It ensures continuity in the organization. As we know the workflow, as already I have discussed, when you're delegating work, you're telling after completing this task to whom he has to report, where he has to get the next assignment to him. So there's a free flow. Everything is a blueprint given already. So the worker who is working on your task will have the efficiency, will have a clarity and how the work should proceed or how where he has to go ahead. It focuses on group efforts. Everyone as a team are working and it is the output of the group which is coming out as an effective process. It is a key to the economic growth. Because when a business develops, it is going to give profits to the people who have invested. It is also going to wealth maximize to the shareholders. And ultimately, it's going employment. So, the economic growth of the company will grow. In turn, the growth of the national economy also will change. Now, challenges. So, management is not a cakewalk. It is not a bed of roses. It's a long process. It also have some challenges. It is not as easy as what we discussed. So you have to understand what are the challenges behind this. Starting with LPG. LPG initially people will actually take it as LPG means liquid petroleum gas. But once we are dealing with management concepts, it is not to be taken like this. LPG here stands for liberalization, privatization and globalization. That is how the foreign business, that is the MNCs have entered into your market and what are the challenges you're going to face because of this MNC company as a local marketer. Change lifestyle and changing values. We know Western culture is entering into our Indian culture and how the impact is there. We are also getting some good things from Western culture, also some bad things. The only important point to be noted is observe, grasp the good things from the other culture and implement in your own culture so that you will try to value your own heritage, your own traditions as well as improve the business values. Increasing life expectancy. Why are we comparing this? Because when you are learning new technology, we are able to expand our business in a broader way. You can expand your business. You can, stretch your wings into other continents, other countries across the globe, and your life expectancy also. That is the business life expectancy will grow. More expectations from customers, employees in a particular and society as a whole in general. Because of the technology, every person is technical savvy. Everyone have all the information or a click of a mouse that is in your internet. Just Google the information, you are getting all the data. So you cannot fool your customers. You cannot make them mislead, or you cannot say that this is not available. They have everything in their fingertips or in their palm, in their mobile. So By this, there's a challenge for the business people that you have to upgrade yourself and be ready for the customer's expectation. And he as a customer expects anything. If you are able to provide, you should be able to fulfill the requirements. Then eroding business ethics. In this competition, you are also losing your ethics, business ethics. What is the basic formalities, basic ethics you should follow as a business person also are being waded away. I'm not saying it's lost, they are waded away, they are just neglected. Then depleting financial and non-financial resources. Too much of exhausting because you want it to be done. You're exploring, exploiting, and you're overutilizing the resources. Then changing technology, as already discussed, because of the technology you need to improve yourself, enhance yourself and put it in a different way. Then bottlenecks in the basic infrastructure. When you wanted to implement the new technology, you have to upgrade your machinery. When you wanted to upgrade your machinery, again you need more money. Again you need more money, you have to go for loans. You have to go outside to borrow the funds. When you borrow the funds, you are becoming indebted to them. So this is all an interlinking process. So this is what we are saying, bottlenecks in business infrastructure. So what is feasible by you? To what extent you can invest? To what extent you can implement into your business? Please take only that part and work on that. If you stretch your hands beyond your expectations, beyond your limitations, beyond your capacity, you will just go into waste. Environmental degradation through pollution. This is too many business people started working and too much of pollution. So you are getting environment also polluted because of many business, or because in this competition, in this hurry, in this fast world, you are not able to concentrate on how much you are able to maintain the business environment and how much you are able to, you are trying to pollute. Then functions of the process. Basically, these 6 are very, very important functions. We are calling them as the blood of a management. What is that? Planning, organizing, staffing, directing, coordinating, reporting and budgeting. Why is this important? For any business, you need to have a proper plan. This is the blueprint. This will tell you what is your idea to do this business and what you want to achieve. Organize it. To achieve that, what is the lane? What is the path you are trying to lay? What is the necessary infrastructure, necessary equipments, necessary material, necessary resources you are supposed to compile together? Staffing. To achieve this, you need skilled, efficient and properly trained employees. So you need to staff them, you need to recruit them. And then directing. Now people are into your business, they understood what you want. After that, you have to delegate the work, you have to direct them what should be done, when you wanted that to be achieved, and what is the expectation from that particular employee as a manager. Then coordinate. Just delegating work doesn't work out. You should coordinate. After delegating work, you should see whether they are going on the proper track or no. What is in your mind, whether it is properly understood by them and it is going in the proper track. And reporting. After everything is there over, after completing the task, they should have clarity over to whom they have to come and report. Because unless and until they know who is their boss, who is their superior, who is the higher up, they cannot work efficiently. In case they have any doubt, to whom they have to go and report, who should clarify their doubts. After reporting, then you have to have a budgeting, because for all this together, what is the budget required? Whether you have that necessary resources that should be properly done. So there are various schools of thoughts, or we can call it as evolution of management thought. So you have many thoughts, many school of discussions, but overall, altogether, the important theories or the important thoughts or the important expectations from the concept of management, you have to understand four important theories, and those we are discussing. These 4 are even today working out in the management arena. First, the thought given by Frederick Taylor. His theory is called as theory of scientific management. As per him, he says that instead of simply delegating the work as an art, as a talent, scientifically you have to assume, You step into the employee's foot, understand whether you're able to perform the task in the delegated time, and then assign the task. Henry Fayol, his theory is administrative theory. He has given 14 principles, or he is saying 14 different points which should be taken into consideration before defining your management. Max Weber, he is a bureaucratic theory of management. He is a bureaucrat. He himself has his own way of taking. He takes everything in a bureaucratic way. Then, Elton Mayo, behavioral theory of management, and he has done Hawthorne experiment. We call it as Hawthorne experiment. This we will discuss in our next session so that you will understand it more clearly. So, one by one to discuss Taylor's principles. As I told you, he is talking about the scientific way. What is he saying? Taylor's 4 principles of scientific management are: work method should be based on scientific observation, not on rule of thumb. Simply because X has done the work, you cannot give Y also the same work and expect him to do. X would have had different caliber, Y will have different caliber. Based on their caliber or their capacity or their expertise, you have to delegate the work. Scientifically select, train and develop each worker. A person who is working as a mechanical engineer cannot work out more on the computer part, isn't it? So, based on their efficiency, based on their skills, the work should be delegated in a scientific way. Cooperate with workers to ensure that scientifically developed methods are being followed. As I already told you, efficiency, effectiveness, skills in that area should be taken into consideration before delegating the work. Managers analyze and plan work, workers actually perform the task. That is, I plan, my employees work on the task. That is, the people who are on the ground level are going to work for me. So this is about the Henry Fayols. Now we are talking about the planning part. So what is this planning? Every part of your life, right from day one, morning when you wake up till the night when you go back to your bed, everything, if it is systematically planned, every activity will have a free flow. Else, unnecessary stress will develop. Unnecessarily you will be tensed. So maintain everything in a systematic way. For that, you need proper planning. So just to say, we keep on saying planning, but what exactly does this planning mean? Planning has its own definition. Planning is a process of determination of a course of action to achieve the desired goals or objectives. That is, you have a determination to complete that action, and to complete that action, you have to achieve the action by desired goals and objectives. You should have proper objectives, proper goals, then only you can achieve your expected destination. Planning requires anticipating the future and consciously deciding what to do, how to do, when to do and who to do. That is, in other words, in short, it is the delegation of or splitting your activities into small parts so that it is easy. When you see a task in a so big way, it is difficult for us to complete the task. But when you break it into parts, easy to achieve. So planning, stages of planning. First, you have to identify the goals achieved, what you want. If you are very clear on what you want, it is easy for you to. So you identify, explore the course of action available to search this goal. Now you know this is what you want. What are the various alternatives? If you have a clarity, it is easy for you to decide which alternative will best suit for your work. Evaluating each course of action on merit. I have 10 options to complete the task, but which option is feasible for me? Which option is more easy for me to complete the task with my available resources? For this, I need not go and again hire different set of people. With the available resources, what is that I can achieve? Then finally selecting the best course of action for implementation. So which is best? Maybe project number A or project number B is best, but then for that you don't have sufficient resources. Then what is the next option? Second option will be your best option. So elements of planning. When we talk about planning, there are few elements, components, features or parts of planning. What is that? You have to forecast, you have to have clarity of objective, what is the policy you are going to follow, what strategies you are going to apply to achieve your task. Then how the program is being planned or systemized, what is the procedure you are going to do, schedules and budget. So everything is clear, but If I have clarity about each and every element, each and every component, my work will be done more effectively and easily. So when we say planning, planning is not only one way. Planning is in a different way. Planning can be discussed, defined, explained, expressed in different ways. So just to break up types of plans. Plans can be decided on the basis of breadth, the time, on the specificate and the frequency. That is, when you talk about the breadth, that is how long, how elaborated the plan is. Strategic plan is done for a long term. A business which wanted to expand across the borders, they need to have a strategic plan. They need to plan everything properly. Strategically means taking into consideration all various components, that is internal and external components of the business into consideration you have to do. Tactical plan means idea, that is within the available resources, how best you can coordinate and complete the task. Operational plan is you know what you have to achieve. You know what are the resources are available, how it should be operated, how it should be put into the field. That is called as operational planning. Long term, short term, intermediate plan, this is based on the time frame. When we talk about the long term plan, anything which is beyond 10 years comes under this category called as long term. Intermediate plan, anything which is in between 3 to 5 years, that can be put as intermediate plan. Short term plan, which is maybe a week to 11 months, that can be taken as short term plan. When specificity, that is the directional plan and specific plan. Direction plan is just I am giving the major information. After that, I am delegating it to the manager to see that the task is completed. That is called as directional plan. Specific plan, each and every small part, small component of the activity is already designed, mapped, and it is given as a blueprint, printed in black and white and handed over to the worker who is supposed to complete the task. Coming to the frequency is number of times. Standing plan, single use plan. Standing plan is 5 years plan. When you take a 5 years plan, it is planned for full 5 years. This is called as standard plan. So for 5 years, there is no change in that. One time use plan, maybe you have fixed some event. You are planning for some outing. You are planning for some picnic. For that picnic related anything, whatever you are planning, that is only one time. So this plan may not be applicable for the next time, next event, next picnic trip, isn't it? So that is called as one time plan. So based on the category, you can see what type of plan you are going to do for your activity. So what is the process involved? I am saying these are the plans. What is the process involved? When you talk about the process, perception of opportunities, establishing, that is perception of opportunity is where I can, usually when we talk about the business, we say about the SWOT analysis. There is a strengthness, weakness, opportunities and threat. So what are the opportunities available for the business, and then after this opportunities, how I establish my objectives. I wanted to achieve this is my ambition. So for that, what are my objectives? I have to have an objective. Then planning premises, where I am going to complete this task, how I am going to complete this task, that is premises is required. Identification of alternatives to achieve. For example, I wanted to reach one destination. For reaching the destination, I have 3-4 options. That is, I can go by flight, I can take my own car, I can hire a private transport, I can go by bicycle or by a two-wheeler or whatever it is. So railways or whatever it is, there are different ways. Which alternative is best fit for you based on your time, based on the seriousness of the issue, you have to decide. So, but you have to know what are the various alternatives available. Then evaluate each and every alternative. If money is concerned, for example, I need a medicine from US. Okay, this medicine is so important for me. So I have to see this is available in so and so locality. I know this. For reaching that locality, I have 3 modes. I can go by air, I can book it in courier, I can ask someone else to hand over when they are coming in person. But based on the intensity of the requirement of the medicine, maybe it is needed within 24 hours, within 48 hours. There is no other go, I have to arrange airway only to reach my destination. If there is no problem, I need after 6 months, no problem, then even you can take waterways, isn't it? So it all depends on the intensity of the requirement or intensity of your goal. So evaluation of alternatives, then choice of alternative which is best suitable for you, formation of supporting plans. Now I have decided this is the mode of transport I am using to get it. For that, what are the requirements? How I have to coordinate with that mode of transport should be arranged. Establishing sequence of activities. After this activity, where it should go? In relay race, you see. In relay race, there are 4 people. One after the other, it will be handed over to one, and then finally the task is completed. When the team is set to win the medal, all 4 are involved. This is called as coordination. So, what are the characteristics? That is the nature, features, or whatever you say. What are these? Involves goal setting. Now, for example, when I define as a human being, I say a human being will be having 2 hands, 2 eyes, 2 ears, 2 legs, etc. Isn't it? These are called as the characteristics. When you define a person as a human being, these are the characteristics. Similarly, when you say about the planning, these are the 13 important features or characteristics which it should have. Involves goal setting, goal focused. You should be concentrating on your goal, primary function, pervasive in nature. What is that? You should be able to implement it, practically possible. Continuous process. It should not be just plan and leave it. It should have a continuous process. Future oriented. The stars what you want to achieve should not fulfill only your short term goals. It should also be able to achieve your long term goals. Intellectual activity. It should be something meaningful, something which really people think, yes, this was really a great decision. Decision making, as I already told you, this should be a proper decision making. Guidelines for action. As already discussed, coordination. When you wanted the task to be achieved, how you are supposed to coordinate to complete that task. Then flexible. I should not be very rigid. I should not say, no, I am not going to give any choice. You have to do this. You cannot do this. Anytime, any situation will change. Either your situation may change, employee situation may change, or your top management also may change their mind. So it should have a little bit flexibility so to implement the current prevailing situation into your plan of action. Actionable, economy and efficiency, and involves forecasting. Okay, these are important characteristics. Then objective. So what is the main reason for having this planning? Forecast the course. So it is clearly defining the course of action. Forward burning. It is talking about the future part. Assured activities. Everything is properly aligned, everything is properly tasked, so that you are saying it is assured activity. Every activity is properly put it into the proper point. Then forecast the risk. You are taking everything into consideration. What is the future value for the product or for the business? Everything you are taking into consideration. Then only you are making your plan. Helps in establishing and coordinating, because planning is already there. Everyone know what is their work. They know where they have to coordinate, and it is easy, smooth flow. Develops in facing competition. Easy to move ahead. Managing budgetary targets, because when you started your plan itself, you know how much it is going to involve. Maybe a light deviation may take place. We already said flexibility should be there. Maybe your project is for 10 crores. You may go, or you should have in mind, 10 crores is my project. I can expect it will be completed in 9 crores, or it may even go to 11 crores. But it should not go to 20 crores, isn't it? That is what we need, clarity over budgets. Then present important information. Everything properly recorded, paperly printed, hand over to the concerned person. Economy in management supports managing healthy competition, because everything is properly planned. It's a healthy competition. So there are 4 levels of strategy. Corporate level, corporate strategy. When it is coming to business level, it is called as business strategy. When you're talking about the functional level, functional strategy. Operation level, operation strategy. What exactly does this mean? Corporate strategy is business plan. That is that big company, corporate, what it wanted to do, whether it wanted to go for merger, acquisition, or takeover, or any expansion of business, diversification. That is in a major, bigger part, bigger picture. Business strategy, only that business. Already I am producing 3 different variety of soaps. I am planning to have a 4th variety of soap. This is a small way. That is, it is including the existing resources but expanding its business. Functional strategy. That is, you have a strategy which you wanted to implement exclusively for your HR department or finance department or marketing department. That is called as functional strategy. Operational strategy, implementation of the work. You have a strategy, you got the approval, how you are going to implement, how you are putting into the roots of the workforce. Then, strategic management, premising, forecasting. These are various things. We need not discuss more about this. Then we are going to the unit 3 where we need decision making. We keep on telling decision making. What exactly does this decision making mean? It is not as easy as what you're thinking. It is not as simple as what you're thinking. It is having its own process, its own steps to be followed. First thing is determine. What is that you wanted to do? Decision should be strong, bold. You should not take a back step. Once you decided, you're going ahead. Then identify the issue. When you say this identifying the issue, it is something like a two-sided of a coin. When you have identified the issue, you will also know what can be the probable solution. So that is the reason you should be able to capture the real root cause for the problem. Then decide an end date. That is by when you wanted this task to be completed. Should have clarity. If that other end is not clearly determined, you take your own time. You take it for granted. I say, if I wanted to complete this task, within 3 months, this work should be completed. If I don't give the deadline, people will be lethargic. People will not take it seriously. People will think, maybe this is not important. Your importance, your priority will be decided on the date, the end date, the deadline you fix it for your project or your task. Then, collection of information. So now, I know what I'm supposed to do. I know what is my issue. I know the deadline. Before the deadline, I should be able to complete the task. For that, what is that? I need to gather the information. Okay, I need to gather the information. What are the various possible reasons for this issue? So, collect information. Then, take support. I got the data. Do you think all the data simply having with myself, can I come to a solution? I need someone to sit together or a team to sit together, discuss, scrutinize everything and then come to a clarity. Then determine all alternatives. So these are the various issues or small bits of pieces which I have identified. Now coming together, I will see what are the alternatives, how I can see. With the alternatives, again I have to see how I can analyze the alternatives. That is weightage, as already discussed. These are the possible alternatives. In this possible alternatives, which is the best feasible solution for me? And then remove the risk. I have to remove the risk or eliminate the issue. Then, this is 4-stage decision making given by Simmons. It's almost the same thing what we have discussed. So, decision making process, we already discussed how it is going to have. Okay, what it can be done with various, I said, gather and find out all the alternatives. When you are having this group discussion or when you are trying to scrutinize this information, these are the various methods you can do. Common information bias. I may have one way of thinking the solution. Someone else have some other way of thinking the solution. Then diversity based information. That is based on my culture, based on my tradition, based on my perception, based on my family background, I may view the information in a different way. So that may happen. Risky shift, devil's advocates. Someone wantedly they will try to go as a competitor, go as your opponent and start arguing. But that is also healthy competition, means it's well and good because they are trying to step out of their fit and trying to identify what is the issue. Having a devil's advocate in your own company is always a good thing for you because they will tell you what the outsider will think about your company. Then dialectic inquiry, Delphi technique. Delphi technique is you keep on sending a set of questions to your team. They will come back with their solution. Again from that you scrutinize and send again some questions. Again they will come with the solution. So this is how it goes on. Then nominal group technique. Keeping on having a discussion. It's like a group discussion, a forum where you have argument, where you have deliberations and then finally you will come to a conclusion. Brainstorming. Ask every employee to give their way of solution for the issue. So no one know who is giving the solution. Every solution will come to a common centralized point, and there you will pick up the best alternative. Group thinking, or you can sit in a group and discuss. That is your team can sit together and finalize the issue. So this is the method what you try to follow. Okay, identify the problem, what is causing the problem, then brainstorm possible solutions or identify various alternatives, evaluate the pros and cons for suggested solution. For every alternative solution, what is the pro, what is the con, that is what is in favor, what is against the business or against the business ethics or against the business policy, rules, vision, mission, everything you are taking into consideration. Put the solution into action, evaluate the process outcome. Once you are implementing the solution, just the work doesn't over. After implementing, whether your expected result has come from that or no, unless and until you identify this, your task is not completed. Then MBO, this is very, very important. See, managers are of two types. Basically, there are n number of variety, n number of thought process, but major categories are two: MBO, MBE. MBO stands for manager by objective. MBE stands for manager by exception. What is the major difference between these two? Manager by objective is very strong, strict, and he is very clear in his ideas, in his decision, in his instructions. He give a task and ask you to complete the task as per his instruction. He will not give you any flexibility to share your thought process. This is one type of manager. Manager by exception, he will say, I don't know whether you're going to sit throughout the day free, I don't know, it's your choice, but by 5 p.m. I need this task to be completed. He is giving an exception, he is giving an exemption in your thought process, in your work process, in your system, isn't it? So MBO, MBE, these are the two different major category of managers whom we have to understand. So you decide whether you are going to be a MBO manager or an MBE manager. Right. So the core concepts of MBO, that is management by objective, is a systematic and organized approach that aims to increase the organizational performance by aligning goals and subordinate objectives throughout the organization. Strict and fast rules, no flexibility in the work promise. MBE, management by exception, is a policy by which management devotes its time to investigate only those situations in which actual results differ significantly from the planned results. Exceptions are given. See, I want 100 units to be completed. That is my MBO manager. MBE manager, I say, okay, at least if you are able to complete 95, fine, no problem. That is called as MBE. A little bit of exception is given. So significance of MBE: proper and timely decision making and appropriate flow of action and employees' activities. Better utilization of manager's time. See, when you treat a human being, a worker as a human being and understand his emotions, your work will be done more effectively. When you treat him just as a worker, he is a worker, he has to work, then he will not put his heart and soul into the work. You will not get the perfection in the activity. So you should be very clear. When you wanted to get some things done so strictly, then be an MBO manager. When you have your own flexible time, then be an MBE manager. So this is the difference, what is discussed about the MBO and MBE manager. This is called as a 7S framework by McKinley. See, these are the important points when you want to achieve the goal. What is the structure? What is the system you are following? Systems, that is methodology, the policies you are following to get your things done. Then style, what style? Whether you are going to be a arrogant person or a flexible person, soft-hearted or touching to earth, whatever it is, that is your way of style. But you are getting the work done. Then staff, how you are going to treat your employees? Because remember, you also would have crossed that level and come to this present level, isn't it? So as a staff, put your foot into their position and understand their emotions, understand their fitness, understand their efficiency, caliber, capabilities, and then delegate the work. So as a staff, you should understand them. Then skills. where a person is very good in writing, a person is very good in typing, a person is very good in talking. So give them the task what they are more efficient enough. We in management we use the word called as use the right key for the right lock. When you're fitting the correct key for the correct lock, your work is easy. You take the wrong key and keep on trying to open a lock, it will not open. But if you have an efficient, skilled employee, give him the task where he is effective, where he is efficient, the work will be done even before you expected time. But give the wrong work for the wrong employee, he will take too long time, but your work is not done. It will not come out with perfection. Strategy. What strategy you are going to use so that your work is completed? This is very, very important. Then coming to the organizing. When you talk about organizing, as I already told, it is the method or a system to compile, to coordinate everything, to bring everything together in one floor. So it is the process of bringing together physical, financial and human resources and developing productive relationship amongst them for achieving the organization goals. You need to understand, I know what is my task. I need to understand which skilled employees are required for me to complete this task, what type of machine I need to complete this task, how much amount I need to complete this task, what is the quality material I will give as input, so my output also will come as a quality. And after getting all this, where I can sell this product, that is what is my market. Okay, so I am talking about the man, machine, material, method, market and money. All together, how I am going to compile, how I am going to bring together, then only I can achieve my task. So I have to identify what are the various activities involved in completing this task, then classification of group of activities. So delegate properly to the group where this work should be done. Assignment of duties, as already, you should be very clear when you are assigning duty, and we also use the word authority and responsibility should go hand in hand. Simply give them authority, he will only keep on commanding, he will not do the work, he will not go to the ground and do the job. So authority and responsibility, both if they go hand in hand only, the task will be completed easily. Delegation of authority and creation of responsibility, both if you give, they should be like a two sides of a coin. When you are handing the coin, you should give the employee the authority to complete the task and also the responsibility. See, I am giving you this task, this is the authority. Responsibility, I don't know how you are going to get, you have to get me with this work done. Coordinating authority and responsibility relationship. So this is how the design and structure, it differs based on the size of the company, it differs. So these are the different ways. You will have functional organization, maybe you can take marketing as one particular function, and based on that the departmental activities how they are going on. This is one functional organization. This is production based. So there are different components. Okay, when you wanted to complete one full car, you have different parts for completing the task. So each part is delegated as a different task. So compiling of all those tasks together only as a production unit, you will come to the full car, isn't it? That is called as production way of doing this. Next, geographic base, that is the state, district, then continent, whatever it is, you are going to divide. That is 7 continents, so many countries. In that countries, again, when you take India itself, you have 28 states. In 28 states, again, you have subdivisions. So that is called as geographical way of organizational design. Zonal manager, then territory manager. In that way, you can divide. Matrix organization. What we can take as manager 1 or manager 2, manager 3, or supervisor 1, supervisor 2, supervisor 3. These are all the activities going on for different departments. They have coordination, that is, it is inbuilt, interwoven. This is we called as matrix way of organizational design. Then differentiation between integration and other thing. So what is that? Differentiation is the difference in cognitive and emotional orientation among managers in a different functional departments. The difference in formal structure among these departments. That is, marketing department will have one way of structure. Production department will have other structure. HR department will have another structure. But each and every manager is efficient in his workforce. Interwoven, when you say, when you delegate the job of marketing manager for a HR manager, he may not be able to perform. That is called as differentiation. Integration, the behaviors and the structure used by differentiated organization subunits to coordinate their work activities. For example, a salesperson is going to the market and is bringing an order. After bringing an order, he should coordinate with the production department so that production department will be ready with the order. When production department wanted to complete the task, he should coordinate with the purchase department to get the necessary raw material. He should have an interlink. When purchase department wanted to purchase the product, he should have interlink with the finance department, because finance department should release the funds, then only the purchase department can purchase the funds and release to the production department. When production department complete the task only, he will be able to complete the order what the sales department has achieved. Okay, this is how it is interlinked. Yes. So hope till now you are able to understand what do we mean by management, what do we mean by organization, what is planning, and how we have done. Okay, so we'll just take a few minutes break and I'll come back to you. Okay, thank you. Yes, welcome back. Now we are going to start with Unit 6 of Principles and Practices of Management. Right. So in our earlier session, we already discussed about the organizing, planning and definitions of management. The next thing what we are supposed to discuss is about the span of management. Why are we supposed to discuss about span of management? Span of management will tell us for each activity or for each division or for each branch or for each function how many people can work effectively. So just to start with, so span of management, when I say span of management, that is a width. So span of management is the number of subordinates that a supervisor can effectively supervise or control. For example, when we talk about each and everything, we have a predefined definition, a research way. That is, when you talk about the teaching part. Teaching, usually it is said that human brain can capture 40 minutes continuously of any subject. After that, you will have a distortion in your brain. Similarly, when we tell about the span of management, a particular manager can handle a particular predefined number of employees or workers under his supervision. So that is what we are talking about. Span of management is the number of subordinates that a supervisor can effectively supervise or control. It depends on the complexity of the organization activities. If it is a very simple activity, he can have many number. But a little complicated, a little stressful job, a job technically more involved, or people should be technical savvy, then he can handle only a certain number. When you see in IT companies, each team is specified. A project is assigned. In the project, a number is predefined. For this project, maybe 10 employees can be done. For this project, maybe 50 people should be involved. So based on the intensity of the work, on the function, the span of management will vary. So it depends on the complexity of the organization activity and relationship, the number of levels in the hierarchy, the type of structure. So factors for span of management. What are the various factors we have to take into consideration before defining how many employees are going to work under a particular manager? So to start with, capacity of the subordinates. That is skilled employees, unskilled employees, semi-skilled employees. This is called as the capacity of the subordinate. Nature of work. How effectively the work should be done. That is, what is the type of nature. Whether it is involved with many critical things, whether it is involved with many other activities. How the nature work depend. Degree of decentralization. When we say centralization, many people coming together. For example, I will show you here. All these people or all these activities are concentrating on factors. So this is called as centralization. Decentralization means the subdivision. This is called as decentralization. So when we say degree of decentralization, how this work is being segregated, how many bits and pieces, how many levels it is crossing, that is called as decentralization. Planning, how the planning has been done, how effectively it is going to work out. Use of staff assistants. So when this activity should be done, how many people should be involved to complete the task. Then supervision from others. See, one person, one employee need one supervisor. One person, one team should report to one supervisor. This, if it is clear in planning and directing, work will be completed easily. I am saying an employee called X should report to boss number A and boss number B. He will not have clarity to whom he has to report after the task is completed. Or it should be clearly mentioned, your first supervisor is A. In case of absence of A, you have to report to B. If this clarity is there, it is easy. So, you should see supervision from others. How many of them are giving the task? How many of them are delegating the work to them? That if it should be very clearly divided. Based on this, you can see the span. Communication technique. What is the mode of communication? Whether the communication should be oral, written, or phone, or handing over the document. Then capacity of the supervisor. Employees may be efficient, but the supervisor, maybe he is new to this work profile. So he may not be able to handle the bigger team in the initial stages. As and as he gets familiar with the work activities, he may be able to handle. So capacity of the supervisor also plays an important role on dividing the span of control. So as already discussed, centralization all together in one point, reporting to one headquarters. Decentralization, use branches. So centralization is headquarters, decentralization means having branches. In an easy way to identify, this is how we can see. Centralization. All these are reporting to one person. He is or the boss is giving the task. This is centralization. Decentralization, it is segregated throughout. Okay, so centralization, decentralization, these are two important points you should understand with. And I already told you in the earlier session that management is divided into three levels. So top level, middle level, low level. In low level, again you have the operating level, that is the workers or the fourth grade employees who are really working on the important task assigned by the top level. So middle level managers or middle level people are as a cushion between the top level and the low level. Whatever the decision is taken at the top level will be carried by the middle level to be conveyed to the low level and getting the things done to the with the workers who are working on the work floor. So the process of delegating the authority. Stage 1, assignment, that is you are going to assign a task. From that assigned task, the work is transferred or it is broken into small parts. And after breaking into small parts of work, it has been transferred. This work is given to the employees. If the employee is accepting, it means your work is done in the time what you have decided. It will come with good colors, good perfection. But if he is not accepting, then better to reallocate him the job. Then accountability. Once he has accepted, he will take the accountability. Accountability means responsibility to complete the task and hand over as per the schedule. So this is how the delegation of authority will take place. Line and staff authority. This is how the line and staff authority. So line is telling direct link. Okay. And staff authority is again subdivision. For example, executive director, that is the top level. Then director and operations, this is second level. Unit manager 1, unit manager 2, that is one production floor, the other production floor. From there, it is coming to the operations. Okay. Now in this again you have operation level personnel manager is there and purchasing manager is there. Here you have again personnel manager and purchasing manager. So this is how the structure, organization structure will vary or will differ. So this is the authority, how it can be delegated. Then meaning of coordination. Coordination, the act of organizing, making different people or things work together for a goal or for effect to fulfill desired goals in an organization. When you read this, you should understand three important points are discussed here. One, it is the act of organizing. That is already I told you, compiling, bringing together, organizing. Then making different people or different things work for you. You have a process, a thought, an idea in your mind. You should make people work for that or things work for that. Things here means the machine, methods, policies. These work for you. and see that the fulfilled desired goals are organization. That is the top level executive, whatever they have in their mind are fulfilled. That is a task, that is a vision, mission of your chairperson, founder, chancellor, or whomever you call. It is fulfilled. Coordination is a managerial function in which different activities of the business are properly adjusted and identified. They are trying to fill the gap. They are trying to see wherever it is done and interlinked. See, this is how the team work. Everyone are doing their piece of work, but ultimately the goal is achieved. Now everyone together, you see, it's a common slab. This is called as the teamwork. This can be done if coordination is done. If this person is not able to mingle here, he is coming out, then it is a shatter, isn't it? So it is not only I am working for myself and achieve my goals. I am working to fulfill my goals as well as I am trying to work for the goals of the organization. That is my employer, who is ultimately my salary payer. Then coordination, effective coordination means how it can be done. All these are interlinked. Effective coordination, communication. You should be able to convince, you should organize, you concentrate, being relevant and listening. You should get that done. Leadership, approachable. As a leader, you should not always say, I have the authority, I will dictate the rules, you have to work out that. No, don't be like an MBO, be like an MBE manager. So, approachable. When an employee have a problem, when he have a doubt, you should be, the manager should be always available for him to clear the doubts. So you should be approachable, understanding. Never always think only in your thought process. Also think what the employee is facing, what is the issue he is facing. Because the task is easy for me, I cannot expect my employee also to do the same task. Isn't it? Then courageous and inspiring. You should be able to take bold decisions. And in case of any emergency, even you should be down to the floor and see that the task is completed, or help your employees complete the task. Creative, should be curious. If any of your employees is trying to give any suggestions, you should be ready to accept those suggestions. Simply you cannot say, I am the boss, whatever I say you have to do. I am always correct, you cannot be correct. No, please give them opportunity. Taking risks. Ready to take risk. Why am I saying this? Because I already told you all, if you are supposed to lead a team, you should have the authority and responsibility simultaneously going on. So, taking risk, original. Should be bold enough to take the original decision. It should not be a copycat business. Someone else in some other situation have taken this decision and that was approved by management. So I will also take this decision and it should be approved by management. This is not how you are supposed to work. You should always think in this situation which is good for both the management and the worker and see that the task is completed. Then imaginative. Assume what can be the future feedback for this decision, and then based on that you have to go and act. Governance, common vision. Vision and mission are two important things a management, a business should always have. Vision is something, a long-term objective. Mission is something how you're going to achieve this long-term objective. So common vision for everyone, whoever are working, whoever are stretching their hands to get the salary from the owner, everyone should have the vision of the owner in their brain and work. Then you should be responsible and you should be accountable for the activities. Transparency, never ever try to hide anything. If you have committed a mistake, be bold enough, dare enough to go and accept this is what I have done. Then easy action can be taken. Resourceful, be more useful for the organization. Come out with some thoughts, some work process which will try to reduce the resources utilization. Maybe time, you can save time, you can save money, that is wastage, anything. So you should be resourceful. Cooperative. Be helping. Remember when you're going for a work, you're spending 8 hours in your workforce. So should be friendly with all your workers, your team, your subordinates, your supervisors, your superiors, your peers, everyone, if you are cooperative only, your work will be done. When in case of any emergency, if you are asking for an helping hand, they will not help you if you are not a friendly natured person. Then independence. Be self-motivated. Don't wait for someone to pat your back and say you are doing good. You take your own self-motivation and work. Then confident enough in whatever work you're doing. Take feedbacks, whether your work is done perfectly, whether whatever the management is expecting from you has been achieved. Then determined and accountable. Always these are the important characteristics, features which you should have to see that you are doing the work effectively. And all this together, you are going to help the stakeholders and partnership. That is ultimately stakeholders are the owners of the company. Okay, so you should be useful for them. So coordination techniques. What are the various techniques you have for coordination? Have good and strong facilitator. Should be strong and good facilitator to provide your help. Have a common goal. Goal means not your common goal, business goal. Okay, define parameters. That is the breakups, deadlines, cabins for each and everything, with consequence of objective and strategies and plans. Everything perfectly. Put the correct key into the correct hole and get it done. Discuss needs and lines of action. What is the need? When you need this? When it should be done? What is the deadline? So that I will see. If the deadline is very short, then there's no harm in working an extra hour to see that the task is achieved. Maybe this extra hour, whatever you work, will be paid to you. They will be, it will be acknowledged by maybe in terms of monetary or non-monetary benefits. Then encourage member participation. Take the idea of everyone. Then only your work. See, you may be very effective in your academic world, but some people with a basic education qualification will be expertise because they have more years of experience in that area. They can give you better suggestion. There's no harm in getting the suggestion. Whether you're going to complete the task, whether you're going to implement that or no is your own choice. But there's no harm in getting the database from everyone. The clear range of services each agency can provide. Then we are going to unit 7, that is called as the staffing. Staffing is your employees. How you are going to put the right person into the right work. How you are going to recruit. What is that you are going to give as a compensation for the work they are giving, for the skills they have. That is called as staffing. So according to Coates and Donnell, managerial functions of staffing involves managing the organization structure through proper and effective selection, appraisal and development of personnel to fill the roles designed on the structure. And that is organization structure is there. You need a proper person, proper employee to fit into that role. Therefore, smooth flow of work can be done. So manpower planning, estimating manpower in terms of searching, choose the person and give the right place. That is, when you have decided this is the task to be completed, you should also have an idea what skills that person should have to fill in the chair, to sit in the chair, to see the task is completed. Then recruitment, selection, placement. Then proper person should be recruited, he should be properly trained, then he should be selected and then placing. Simply because he is giving you a document that I already have so many years of service, we cannot fit in. Because he would have worked for some other company with some other equipment, some other strategies, some other policies. So it is not always an experienced person will fit into your work immediately. Even he should have the basic information of your company. He should also have the orientation about your policies and procedures. Then only he can be proper fit into your work. Training and development. So, very frequent trainings will help the employee understand where he is and where he is going. What is the existing scenario for the trend scenario? What is the basic trend and where he is standing. Whether he is lacking in some skills, whether he is lacking in some technology, he should be trained properly. A requirement for any employee to work effectively is proper training and development. When we talk about HR, usually we say HR has two different parts. One is called as HRM, one is called as HRD. HRM stands for Human Resource Management. One is called as Human Resource Development. So managing an employee is effectively done if he is properly trained. So that is the reason I am saying you have to have training and development. Remuneration. You are taking too much of work and paying less. They will work, they will not say no, but the quality of work, the output of the work may not be that effective. If he is paid proper remuneration at par with the industry, his work will be more effective. Then performance appraisal. Appreciate then and there for the performance he has done, for the effectiveness he has done. Then he will be motivated to work more. He will think, okay, this company is recognizing my work. They are identifying my hard work. They are able to see what I am contributing, and then they were giving. So you have to have performance appraisal, promotions and transfers. When and wherever required, promote the employee to the next level, so that non-monetary motivation will really help the growth of the company. Then this is the selection process. This is a big structure, and you can understand the structure. It happens, it changes from company to company and corporate to corporate. The performance appraisal, as already discussed. What is this performance appraisal? A performance appraisal, also referred to as a performance review. Performance review means how he or she has done a work in a span, a term, a fixed period, maybe a project or in a full financial year or for an academic year or whatever it is, at that particular time period, time frame, how he has performed, review for that. Performance evaluation, development discussion, that is evaluate. Now this task was given, he has completed in 3 months, now evaluate this, how that work has come, whether you are able to give him 100% marks or 90 or 70. If you are giving him 50, so where he is lacking, simply you cannot say you are giving only, I am evaluating you and I can give you only 50 marks. Why he has lacked that 50 marks? If you are able to give him that clarity, he will perform better. So that is what we are saying, performance evaluation, development discussion, where he should improve, what points he should concentrate, what activities he has to concentrate. That will called as development discussion or employee appraisal. Sometimes shortened to PA. Usually this performance appraisal is called as PA. It's a periodic and systematic process whereby the job performance of an organization can be done. Then modern methods of performance appraisal. So there are different methods in appraising an employee. Each company can follow their own strategies. But in short, MBO, by objective, you can do it. Psychological appraisal, it focuses on employees' emotional, intellectual and other personal characters affecting the performance. So what exactly is his mental status, physical status, performance status affecting the organization goals? 360-degree performance. This 360-degree performance, when we say, it is taken as a review from 4 different components, 4 different areas. That is, you are taking the feedback from his subordinates, from his superiors, from his peers and his own self-appraisal. That is 360-degree performance. Then assessment center method. Employees are assessed to participate in activities like in basket exercises, role-playing, discussion, computer simulation, etc. And based on that, marks are assigned. And based on that marks, his appraisal is done. Behaviorally anchored rating scale. This, it's called as BARS. This is a systematic predefined questionnaire or rules or games which will decide the quality of performance. The 1720-degree method. Earlier it was taken only as a feedback from them. Now I told you you are taking the feedback from your subordinate, from your peers, from your superiors and from yourself. This is one-way action. The two-way action is called as the 1720-degree feedback. Then cost accounting method. This method evaluates the employee's performance for the monetary output. How many units of output he has given, and in that output how many how much amount the company is able to get. What is the profit it would have gained because of this employee's work. Then career development strategies. As I told you, always don't give your one-way feedback and ask the employee to improve. Tell where he has to improve. For that, give him the development strategies. Embrace the new challenges. Keep up to date. Set a communicative goal. Manage self-reliance. Be more network. Set milestones. Solve problems on your own. Ask for feedback always. Adopt technology. So make manageable goals. Okay, goals. That is, you have to see when you want it to be more effective, whatever you can do, take only those parts and do it. Be innovative and creative. Whenever you're doing any task, be innovative and creative. Manage SWOT analysis on your own. Have an achievements portfolio. Design your own portfolio and see how you're going step by step ahead. Continue your education. Education here does not mean getting degrees. Education means here to improve your skills. Create a vision board. Draw your own board on yourself and see how many you have achieved. Then use SMART goals. Hire a career coach. Keep a change mindset. Always be ready to accept the change, accept the suggestions given by anyone so that you will improve your own. Then directing. If you remember, initially I told you management have 6 important functions: planning, organizing, staffing, directing, coordinating and control. So now we are in the 4th function called as directing. Directing, it is that part of managerial function which accumulates the organization methods to work efficiently for achievement of organizational purpose. Ultimately, the goal of the organization should be achieved. Direction is that interpersonal aspect of a management which deals directly with the influencing, guiding, supervising, motivating subordinates for achieving the task. So supervision, motivation, leadership, communication and control all together will come as a bunch for directing. It implies measurement of accomplishments against the standards and correction actions. You have a yardstick, you have a predefined standardized format, and now you have the achievement. You are trying to see how much you are mapping with the achievements. Therefore, controlling has following steps. What are the steps? Establishment of standard performance, measurement of actual performance. This is my standard, this is my achievement. I am trying to see at what level I am fitting into this. Then comparison of actual performance with the standards and finding out the deviation if any. Then corrective action. So okay, I got deviated. So where I got deviated, how I can make this correction, how I can come back to track and see that the standards fixed are being achieved by me. Significance or importance of management here depends more because encourages initiative management. You have to take initiative to encourage your employees to achieve the task on time, effectively and efficiently. So encourage teamwork. Directing does not always mean that you have to achieve as a single. It is achieving in a group, in a team. Okay, so encourages teamwork management to work as a team. Work as a team, be part of a team, be leader of a team, either lead the team or be part of the team. It develops a team spirit in the organization. This unity brings success to the organization levels of management. Many managers work in an organization. However, these managers do not work at the same level. So each and everyone have their own level, their own task, their own role assigned. They have to work accordingly. So top level management, as already discussed, generally there are 3 levels of management, that is administrative, top level or executive or middle level or supervisory or lower level. At each level, individual managers carry a different role. As an executive, in the decision making role I am. As a manager, I am in the implementing role. As a worker, I am in the role where I have to perform on the task assigned to me. So, the top level management consists of the board of directors, the chief executive officer, and other people. Similarly, when you talk, role of the top level management is only to determine the objectives, policies, and plans, and they mobilize, assemble, bring together. That is all the resources. For that, they have to arrange the monetary funds. Then, top level management does mostly the work of thinking, planning, and deciding. So they are only thinking, planning, and assigning. This work should be done by the next level managers. That is the middle level managers. So middle level managers consists of the department heads, branch managers, and other etc. The heads are for finance, for purchase, for HR, etc. Branch managers are the head of a branch or a local unit. The junior executives are assistant finance managers, assistant purchase manager, etc. That is the next level. The middle level management is selected by the top level executives. Top level people, that is the managing director or the trustee, they are the people who are selecting the middle level managers, that is the employees who are going to fit into the middle level management. So their responsibility is a lot. They should be both. They are acting as a cushion for the top level as well as the worker level. So lower level of management. The lower level management consists of the foreman and the supervisors. They are selected by the middle level management. It is also called as the operative and supervisory role. Lower level management directs the workers, employees. They develop morale in the workers. Morale here is a combination of motivation and workforce, work stream. It maintains a link between workers and the middle level management. Lower level management informs the workers about the decisions which are taken by the management. Management here means the top level managers. They also inform the management about the performance, difficulties, feelings, demands, etc. of the workers. So vice versa. Now whatever the feelings the employees, that is the worker who is working on the work floor, what are the difficulties they are facing, if they tell to the manager, manager will tell to the executives. So they spend more time in directing and controlling. The lower level managers make daily, weekly and monthly plans and work accordingly. So objectives of management is organizational objective. Management is expected to work for the achievement of the objectives of the particular organization. So reasonable profits, survival of solvency, growth, expansion and improving goodwill. So all this four, again I put it into two broad categories as wealth maximization and profit maximization. So personal objectives also, that is employee should fulfill his objective as well as the management objective. And social objective, that is by giving good products, good services, quality products, quality services, you are trying to serve the society as a whole. So interpersonal roles also are there, not only the personal, interpersonal roles. So the symbolic head of the organization, they are the liaison, okay, they monitor, the disseminator and spokesman. All these roles also they play. This is more by the middle level manager. Coming to unit 8. So motivation. This is the heart and soul of any management. Why am I very particular about this? When I say motivation, it is the driving force of every organization, driving force of every job to see that the worker is having a positive energy in him to complete the task. So motivation is very, very important for everyone. Be it a worker, be it the top level manager, be it the middle level manager, supervisor, anyone and everyone. So meaning the term motivation describes why a person does something. It is a driving force behind human action. Motivation is the process, initiates, guides and maintains goal-oriented behavior. Why we are doing, what for we are doing, whenever I get demotivated, when I'm having a little bit of depression or when I'm under energy, I need motivation to cope up my energy. For this coping up my energy, I need motivation. How does this motivation come? From where does this motivation come? So features of motivation. Yes, features of motivation, when I say It is psychological process, continuous process, complex and unpredictable process, pervasive function, influence the behavior, concentrated on whole individual, positive and negative. These are all the features. All this psychological process, it is inbuilt psychological process, continuous process. Every day I need this motivation so that I can complete my task. The complex and unpredictable. Suddenly something will demotivate me. Suddenly something will motivate me. Something inner happiness which I have in doing a job will motivate me better. I am not bothered about the monetary benefits that time because this job is very interesting for me. I will do. That is my motivation. Okay. This motivation will come for an employee when something he had in his mind and he was not assigned till that date. Suddenly when that work is assigned to him, he is so happy. That will make him do the work more effectively, more perfection will come from his work. That perfect work will be reflected on the output of the task he has completed. Pervasive function, it is inbuilt again, influences the behavior. Why I am saying the behavior, as I told you, the job what I like, if you are assigned me, I will do it more effectively. I will have a positive attitude, positive behavior to complete the task. Concentrated on whole individual. This will not make me work in bits and pieces. My whole body will be activated to complete the task, positive or negative. This will be both the ways, positive. If the job which I like, if you are assigning me, I will have positive motivation. If the job which I don't like, I am not at all interested to do, if you assign me the job, I will be demotivated. That will be negative motivation. So motivation can be two types. One, you say you complete this task, you will be paid for this, you will be recognized for this. That is positive motivation. Negative motivation, if you don't do this task, you will be punished. So that fear of getting punished will make me work, will make me complete the task. That is called as negative motivation. So types of motivation can be segregated in two different headings: intrinsic motivation and extrinsic motivation. Intrinsic motivation is attitude. My attitude, if I am having, that is intrinsic motivation. Competency, which will enhance my competitive spirit, that will give me more motivation. Achievement motivation. If I feel, if I achieve this task, I will get recognition, I will get remuneration, I will be paid, I will be recognized, I will be appreciated. That is achievement motivation. Psychological motivation. If I am achieving some task, my psychological needs, my psychological thoughts will be suppressed. My fear will be suppressed. Then that is another way of motivating. Creative motivation. If I am given a chance to do a task involving all the talent I have, I am not asked why I am doing or I am using some different technique. My work is that I have to complete. Then that will give me creative motivation. Introjected motivation within my own self. Extrinsic motivation, fear of motivation, that is a negative type. Then incentive motivation. If I am told, if I am being paid extra incentive if I complete the task, that is intensive motivation. Social motivation. By completing this task, I will be achieved. For example, I am coming out with a new policy, new procedure, new method, new product, new service. Then that will give me recognition in the society. That is another way of motivation. Power motivation. That is, if someone are telling you, if you are able to complete this task, I am going to give this full team to you and hereafter you will be taking over this team. That idea of getting power over a team, that will be a motivation. Identified motivation, which I myself know. If I am able to complete this task, I will be paid. So I will do this task. I will complete this work. That is called as identified motivation. So factors of motivation, there are n number of, you will have good, if you have good communication, you can be motivated. If you are being paid good salary, if you complete the task, again it will be. If you are having an idea, you will be recognized, you will be appreciated. That way, that is another way of motivating. Rewards, it can be reward, can be in terms of a small short-term reward, or it can be in terms of getting a higher designation or appreciation or promotion or whatever it is. Work ethics. If you feel I am satisfying the work ethics, you will be motivated, or that will be another word. Then workplace culture. Workplace culture is very friendly. People are very friendly. They are ready to help you. They are ready to support you. In case of emergency, they are spontaneously coming to help you. That is work ethics. That will also motivate you. Opportunity to learn. You're getting into a very big company. There's a lot of scope for you to learn. People are ready to teach you. You're learning new things every day. Is an expedition for you. Then that will motivate you. It will be your inner urge. Daily I have to go and learn. So I will not be a lethargic player. I will be more active. I will be more motivated. Work-life balance. This work 10 to 5 is my work given here. So I have plenty of time to spend with my family. This work-life balance will help me, or it is another factor to motivate. Health incentives. If my company is giving me health insurance, health benefits, then that is another way of motivating. And not only for me, for my family also. If it is giving insurance, it is covering all my family members under insurance scheme, then that will motivate me. Even if my salary is little less, I am happy because my family is covered with some other benefits, extra benefits, career growth opportunities. Maybe if I am working in this company, the company is providing for my children free education. The company is giving free transportation. The company is giving me free residence quarters. So that will be another way of motivation, because these are something which are going to help me grow. So this is called as factor. These are the factors which can motivate a person. So usually we divide as this. One is called as the hygiene factors, other are called as the motivator. Hygiene factors are salary, wages, other benefits, company policy and administration, good interpersonal relationship. It is not only the relationship between you and your supervisor, you and your subordinate. It is a relationship between all the employees of the organization, sitting together for lunchtime or sitting together for a discussion, going for an outing, going for a picnic, having a workplace entertainment. That is all part of your motivation. Quality of supervision. Your supervisor is very clear. He is designing, delegating a task for you. After you complete, he is appreciating you. He is not bothered whether you are able to complete the task within 2 hours or 3 hours. As soon as your task for the day is completed, he will give you free time. That is another way. Working condition, hygienic condition, proper lighting, proper ventilation, proper other benefits you are given, your tea, coffee, refreshments are given. That will help an employee feel an internal happiness. This internal happiness will motivate him to work. Then work-life balance, already done. When in place, these factors result in general satisfaction and prevention of dissatisfaction. Coming to the motivator factors, sense of personal achievement. You are trying to achieve your own goals as well as the goals of the organization. That is called as the sense of personal achievement. Status. By achieving this task, your status is increasing in the society, in the employees, in your peers. Then that will motivate you more. Then recognition. Just imagine your employer is saying, if a person is able to complete the task in time, his name will be highlighted in the notice board. That is a recognition what you're going to get. So that will motivate you. Then changing and simulating work. It's like in bank you could have said it's a rotation job. So you will be able to learn different tasks. You will understand the intricacies of each and every work. You will understand how this work should be done. Next time when you are coming to do the same work, you know the technique to complete the task in a shorter time and more effectively. Opportunities for advancement. You have a scope for growing in that organization that will motivate you. See, if I am able to achieve this task, this this achievement within a prescribed time, then for sure I will get promotion, for sure I will get an increment, for sure I will be awarded, for sure I will be rewarded. This mere thought will motivate a person to do more. Then promotions and growth. When in place, these factors result in high motivation, high satisfaction, strong commitment. Then next is the leadership. I told you, after directing, coordinating, control will be done by the leader. So a leadership, a definition of a leader is any person who influences individuals and group within an organization, helps them in the establishment of goals and guides them towards achievement of those goals, thereby allowing them to be effective. If you see, here I am not cutting here. I am not only saying he is influencing individual. I am saying he has an influence in individual to see that you are able to achieve your goals, giving you guidelines properly to achieve these goals, and thereby trying to see that the organization goals also are achieved. So leadership styles, there are different leadership styles. Autocratic style, democratic style, bureaucratic style and charismatic style. Which will be better for your personal opinion, for the organization, for the team, for the environment of that business type? You should select, and then based on that you have to implement and apply those rules. So next we are coming for the communication. When you are able to communicate what is there in your mind to your worker, he will do it better. So how can you communicate? When you're talking about communication, basically you need to have 7 C's perfectly done. What are the 7 C's? 1. Clarity. Be clear in conveying the message what you want the worker to do. So what I'm saying, be clear with your message. Keep it simple. Don't use jargons. Use simple language in what he is understanding, because you know hi-fi language, you know all the technical terms. Don't use the terms. In his level, you have to come down his level and make him clearly understand what you want. Conscience, that is, as already told, what is there in your mind should go correctly into the worker's mind. So after conveying your message, ask him to repeat what he has understand. That is called as least possible words. It saves time for sender and receiver. Then crisp, clear message. Correct, accurate facts and figures, proper use of grammar, spellings and language. So when you are communicating, see that word should have same meaning what you wanted to convey. If the word is having another meaning or another message, if the comma, full stop and the brackets are interchangeably used, the message will wrongly be communicated. So be very clear in communicating. Then complete, must convey all the facts required by the receiver. When you wanted to convey a message, see that the necessary information, the supporting information required for completing the task is properly handed over. Also inform the worker what should be done, when it should be done, in case of any issues, whom he or she should coordinate or contact, and where that person is available. You told you can come coordinate with X to complete the task, but he should understand where this X will be sitting so that he can go and convey his message. Then consideration, consider the audience and their requirements. What exactly is required, whether you have given the full details. Concrete, be definite and specific, not vague. Clear, crisp, correct, complete information should be conveyed. Courtesy, think about the receiver, their viewpoint, and be respectful. When you are conveying the message, the face feelings itself will tell whether the receiver has received your message correctly or no. If not, there is no harm in repeating the whole message correctly. And in case he is having any doubt, there is no harm in it. That is the reason you should be approachable for the employee to clarify his doubts. Then, purpose of effective team building. Why team building, communication groups are required for a company, for a business, for a corporate? Reason is to make effective decisions, to set proper goals, to achieve goals promptly. That is, goals are achieved, but there is a time limit, isn't it? It's always told, judgment delayed is judgment denied. So when the decision should be taken, correctly it should be taken. Then, to allocate way of performance, how it should be done, when it should be done, where it should be done. To examine the methods of work, keep a control, a coordination, a hand, an eye on the work process. To examine the relationship, to enhance the motivation, where and whenever required, you should keep on patting their back and saying you're doing the good job. Increase job satisfaction. A word of mouth of satisfaction will help the employee motivate and increases inner energy. To create a communication environment, that is, give an opportunity for your subordinate to come and talk to you, then only your work will be done effectively and efficiently. To ensure self-control, to encourage innovation. Give him a free mind, free thought, free process to share his knowledge in that particular task. Then only your work will be done effectively and efficiently. Coming to the controlling part, when you're talking about the controlling, as I already told, planning, organizing, staffing, directing, coordinating, and last but not least, controlling. What do we mean by controlling? Controlling means to see whether the aim, the target, the task you have planned is going as per your expectation, whether there is any deviation. In case of deviation, where the deviation has come, why it has come, how you have to rectify it. So controlling means the management of the organization is responsible for deciding predetermined standards and making sure that the performance of the employees match with the standards set by the management, and in case if the performance of employees does not match the standards, then required action to be taken. All whatever I have told are completed. See, you have planned something, you need the work to be done. So for that you have what you have done, your plan, then you have organized. Organized means brought back all the 6 M's to one place, under one umbrella, under one roof, so that your work should be done. Then you have brought the skilled employees, skilled staff members to work on this project. They are working. Then you are directing them how they have to do, where they have to do, when they have to do, when they have to complete, to whom they have to report after this bit of work is completed. Not only that, you said where they have to coordinate within each other so that the task can be done smoothly. The work is completed. That is the blueprint of coordination is clearly defined. After this is done, it is your job to see whether it is completed or no. You have opened the tap for the water to flow into your garden, but it is your work to see whether the water flow is going as per your planned schedule. Then controlling means giving instructions to the employees and making sure that the instructions are being followed as desired by the management. Whatever is desired by the management, what is the goal set by the management, whether it is done properly or no is your work. So types of control. Control, again you can see it under tree. Input, process, output. Input means feed forward control, anticipate the problem, how it should be done. Then concurrent control, that is corrects problem as they happen. Wherever the issue is there, you are trying to streamline the water. Then output, so corrects problems after the occur. So you have opened the tap, water is going, wherever there is a deviation, you are again trying to put it properly, streamline so that it is reaching your garden properly. This is how the controlling is done. So the process of control: establishing the baseline, measuring the performance, comparing the progress, corrective action. So you have established the baseline, that is you have planned. Measuring the performance, you have directed them. You are coordinating, comparing the progress, you are coordinating. Corrective action, you are trying to control. You are trying to take everything under your control, under one centralized point, and see whether it is going at par with the standards you have decided. Then, these are the techniques how you can control. Traditional non-budgetary control device. If you're talking about the financial part, budgets are pre-decided. When we talk about the railway budget or financial budget, this is what is allocated for each department is pre-decided. Then they will say this is the amount allocated for this particular department. The department will start working. After that, at the end of the year, you will come to know whether the allocated budget is being utilized properly, whether there was a shortage or whether there was an excess. In case it was excess, you can modify, you can rectify, you can deviate it to some other sectors which are in need of money. That is the one method. When we are talking about the finance part, balanced scorecard. It's all about the employees. Task given, task performed, task achieved. What is the measurement? Then benchmarking. Already you have set some standards, benchmarking. For example, what is the highest score? This is the highest score in IPL. This is the highest scores in 2020 match. This is the standard benchmark set. 277 is the benchmark set, isn't it? So anyone who are able to get more than 277 runs in 2020, that is the new. So as of now, benchmark is set as 277. That is the highest score in cricket in 2020 match. Okay, information technology. IT is like RFID, they say, radio frequency identification code. That is telling you where, when, how the product is moving. So that is having a control. You are having a track. For example, you would have heard about the Walmart. Walmart is such a vast outlet where each and every department have a vast area. So having a track of one small product is not possible. Everything is systemized, everything is updated in the system. So just by a click of that RFID code, you will see whether the product has already moved out, or is it in process, or it is crossing the door. Coming to the cost control. Any wastage if you have identified in the production cycle, in the transportation, that can be controlled by having, for example, when we discuss about costing, we come across a concept called as normal cost or normal loss and abnormal loss. Normal loss is, we know, when 100 liters of milk is transferred in an open container from one place to another, for sure there is a spillage. So we can expect 98 liters only will reach the other side of the target. But instead of 98, if only 90 liters are reaching, then there is an over wastage. That is where you can call as cost control. Financial ratio analysis. This is again totally dealing about the ratio analysis, whether you are able to maintain proper debt and equity, whether you are able to maintain proper gross profit ratio, net profit ratio, whether you are able to compare the, comparative analysis can be done. Then Gantt chart. It's a big chart where you can scrutinize, you can draw your lines and find out whether you are going in the proper track or no. Critical path method, that is, a particular product is completed, it should reach the godown. So which is the minimum distance it should cover so that it is reaching with an optimum time and with optimum method to the proper place. That PERT. PERT is again, it's a review technique to find out the minimum distance reached within the minimum time. It's all more related to the operations management. That is in the operational level. Management by exception, I already told you what it is. Linear programming, it is a mathematical method to find out again which is the best option. Then budgeting, as already discussed, budgeting is another way of controlling the financial part. Be it financial budget, be it performance budget, be it your railway budget or any budget, maybe department, function, for your weddings, for your event, anything, all budgets. That is a standard fixed. I am planning for constructing house, I need 3 lakhs. But at the end of the day, when you see the, a statement, maybe it is going to 3.5 lakhs. So that 0.5 lakhs is something which is over and above your target. So 3 lakhs is supposed to be called as your standard, 3.5 is supposed to be called as your actions. So you are trying to compare. So where you have been deviated. So there, next time you can reduce your cost or cost cutting, or maybe expenses can be reduced, or somewhere you can minimize the efficiency. Okay, this is all with your principles and practices of management. Okay, hope you have got the information clearly.